And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. So, first question. I have recently been thinking about going gay for pay, but really afraid of the backlash where people question my true sexuality. If the money is right, should I just go for it? First and foremost, let me clear myself legally. I think I do not recommend doing anything illegal. If gay for pay means gay sex for money and that's illegal in your country, please do not do that. Illegal things are bad. That said, assuming everything's perfectly kosher and legal, are you comfortable? I mean, who cares what other people think? If your friends would be like, "Oh my God, you're gay for pay? Really, dude? Are you fucking gay?" Then what sort of friends are they? I mean, you'd be like, "No, dude, I'm fine. It's just really fucking good money." Then your friends would be like, "Okay, dude, that's weird, but whatever, cool, go for it. It's fine." So I know it's kind of a cliche, but the people who matter won't care, and the people who care won't matter. If you're thinking about going gay for pay and you think that's actually worth it, go for it. I mean, a lot of people that are work in the sex industry don't want to talk about it in general, so just don't tell people what you do. I think that's what most people in the sex industry do or don't do. Um, but between your friends, dude, gay for pay is a thing. Don't worry about it, dude. Just go for it. Just go for it. Question number two, and again, I haven't pre-read these questions, so forgive me if something awful pops up like that last one. Went out with a girl for 4 years from age 16 to 20. 2 years in, my father passed. I was completely lost who I was and didn't care about anything it seemed. I felt she was the one, but I didn't know what to do after dad passed. It wasn't the same. She had her problems, but I was also stubborn. Did I fail because I didn't do good enough by talking to her, or did she fail because she left me without trying to fix it? Relationships are a two-way street. If something falls apart, it's it's usually on both people's heads. Very rarely do you have an honest situation where a relationship falls, or a situation where honestly it's both people's fault. For example, the cliche of a woman coming home and finding her husband in bed with another woman, like out of the blue, in the middle of like a perfectly happy marriage, it's really fucking rare. That shit doesn't happen. It's like seeing a plane crash and being like, oh my God, I can't fly on that. I can't take planes anywhere. Like, people rarely cheat on one another without some precursor somewhere. Um, I mean, unless it's just that person's disposition, but after 4 years, clearly you know that person's disposition. That's not the sort of thing. So it's probably a combination of both. At 20 years old, with your dad just dying, it's the sort of thing where you're not sure what to do. She's not sure what to do. Neither of you really know how to approach this thing, and so you both kind of fumble with it. If everything was going good up until that point, it it's the pressure of the situation and neither party really knowing how to approach it that is the deal. So I wouldn't don't blame yourself too much because it goes both ways. You know, if one person had their shit completely and perfectly together, then they would have been together enough to approach the other person and say, "Hey, I need more of this from you, or I need more of that from you." Again, back to a communication thing. Like, but if neither person can really handle the situation, then it's going to fall apart, and that's really sad. It's sad to see such a tragic event that could have such great like that could have such a great effect. And I don't mean great in positive. I mean great in drastic. That sort of situation, that sort of trauma can do a lot of things for and against a relationship, and it can do a lot of things in a lot of different ways. And it's sad to see that ended up breaking you apart. But I wouldn't blame yourself. It Romance is a two-way street. It takes two to tango. It takes two racks to proxy. I mean, there's a lot of metaphors here. Um, let's get another question. Uh, how can I get my boyfriend to understand my love for StarCraft? How do you suggest introducing a non-gamer to the game? Also, we've been dating 4 years, so this is serious business. Abandonment is not an option. Campaign. get him into the campaign. How do you get him into the campaign? Well, I'm not sure about that. I have always been fortunate enough that the people I've dated have been willing to get into video games or have been into video games prior to this. For example, I'm currently dating a girl who used to play StarCraft all the time, back like StarCraft 1. I think it was mostly the campaign, maybe a custom map here or two, but on some level, it was a campaign. She understands. If you've been dating this guy for 4 years and he doesn't understand that you have a passion for something or is like not cool with it, you need to find a way to make it relatable. Now, how do you make StarCraft relatable? Well, that's something we in esports, God, like I'm in esports. We in esports have been talking about for years. I've actually been in part of many, many conversations with people being like, well, we need to make some like intro videos for people to understand how it works. A lot of good ways I've seen have been, showing people Day 9. He's really good at this sort of thing. The Day 9 Daily 100, of course, is a great way to get people to try and get people to understand where you come from and how you feel about these things. Does your boyfriend do anything competitive? Does your boyfriend, surely he's got some interest in some hobbies. So you need to find a way that he will understand, because not everyone understands the same way that your love for StarCraft is like his love for motorcycles or mountain biking or gay sex for pay or League of Legends. So one of the great ways I've heard this said is, so I know this guy, he builds amplifiers for a living. And not just like your standard amplifiers, but like super high-end amplifiers. And he often has the issue where, his people who buy his amplifiers will be like, oh, how, they'll have friends who will approach him like, I can't believe you just spent $50,000 on an amplifier. $50,000 on an amplifier? Are you fucking crazy? Or, on the sound system, you have like multiple $20,000 amplifiers, and sometimes you like change them to see like, listen to this song and this amplifier and that song and then amplifier, whatever. And people like, they freak out over that. I kind of freak out over that a little bit. But the way that he's, said, the best way that people have explained it is like, oh, well, this amplifier is like my motorcycle. And people kind of click at that, like, oh yeah, if I had a motorcycle, I'd spend, a shit ton of money getting it, fixing it up, getting it nice, blah, 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 blah. So you have to find a way to make it click with the person. If your boyfriend's a motorcycle enthusiast, be like, hey, my StarCraft is my motorcycle. It's the thing I love and devote my time to. If your boyfriend is a, I don't know, musical person, really loves musicals, listens to Dr. Horrible all the time, watches Team America all the time. I guess that's not really a musical, but there's some good songs in there. Watches the Scrub musical or the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical, or whatever real musicals. Because I'm sorry, I'm not a musical person. I don't really listen to anything. I don't really know. Maybe like, hey, this is my blah blah blah. So that's the best way to get someone into it, is just to try and explain it in their terms, and then show them some super basic stuff, like show them a Husky cast. Whether or not you're a Husky fan, I know he's a little crazy for some people. Husky's a great way to get people into competitive RTS, because he's got that enthusiasm. So do we have any more questions? Let's take a look at, I met a girl, but she really likes the pink. I think you mean the color pink. But I hate it so much. I don't know how I can speak to her without showing my hate for the pink. Please help me. You hate the color pink with a fiery passion, brimstone and fire, and, you hate the color pink like it's an ogre and your name is Breger. But you met this girl that you like, and she likes pink. Here's my solution. Don't be a little fucking bitch. It's only a color. Get over it. Dear God, would you really let a color ruin a relationship for you? Now, that sounds a little harsh, and it's not meant to be that harsh. I'm just trying to snap you into reality a little bit. If a color is such a big deal to you that you can't see yourself with someone for that, just because they like a certain color, you need to re-examine your value system. And if you re-examine it and find that still pink is a big deal, then just don't be with her. Like, even after you take a moment and be like, well, yeah, I really think I can't stand the color pink. You know, my little sister choked to death on a pink bag. My dad had some pink work boots that, made him slip and fall and die. And well, my mother's got, this pink bag that was used to that she keeps losing things in, and she was late to my wedding because of that, and I just can't deal with the color pink anymore. My previous wife broke up with me for some guy who only wears pink shirts, and I really just can't deal with pink. Like, if you have a legit reason why you hate pink with a fiery passion, and this girl likes it, well, game over. Like, find another player, find a new player too. But unless you have some truly honest and good reasons for hating the color pink, you're being you're being kind of a bitch. And forgive me for calling you a bitch. It's probably not the right thing to do when you're trying to start a new show. But seriously, dude, come on. It's just a color. Okay, let's take another question. Um, let's see. What's ways to get out of your comfort zone in a relationship? Love what you're doing with the show. Hope to see more. How do you get out of your comfort zone in a relationship? Oh dear God, this is the question that I struggled with for ages. Once upon a time, I met this girl. I'm not going to reveal her name, of course. And at first, so I was a ballroom teacher. Not. I'm a little ashamed to admit that I've dated many people who were students of mine or were in the same class as me. Like, I've met a lot of people through ballroom. Mildly ashamed that a few of them were students, but not really, but mildly ashamed. Anyway, this girl in particular was one of my ballroom students, and we hit it off, and we're going great. And she's about the same age as me, so it's fine. Like, we're the same age, give or take a few years. It was fine. Uh, and I only see her in the context of ballroom. And so I think she's like kind of this shy girl because she's not talking very much, and she's really sweet and nice and enthusiastic. And then we start dating a little bit, and one day she invites me to a party at her house. I was 20, and I had only recently started to drink. So she invites me to this party, and I get there, and she's there with her friends, and they're like partying hard, like like they're going at it, and I'm like, holy shit, I've never seen this side of this girl before. What the hell's going on? Right? So I'm a little uncomfortable about the situation, but we hang out and it's great and everyone has a great time and it's fine. And then as I get to know her a little bit better and a little better and a little bit better, I'm like, wait a minute, this quiet, shy ballroom girl is just one facet of her. She's actually like, really different than what I expected. She's into. I don't want to just say she's into partying because that really makes a one-dimensional thing here. But she's more outgoing. She's more adventurous. She like likes to hang out with friends, is really social, and I'm like super shy and awkward and outside of ballroom and StarCraft. I don't really know what I'm doing. And she's like got all these friends and people are coming over and we're hanging out and we're doing things and we're being super social and sometimes we're partying and like getting drunk and I'm really new to that and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I know where you're coming from. So how do you get out of your comfort zone in a relationship? I mean, because she was pulling me out of my comfort zone. And now it's dawning on me that you mean a different sort of comfort zone. But I'm going to continue my story and segue into there. You get out of your comfort zone by manning up or womaning up or whatever it is. It's hard. It's really uncomfortable, but that's why it's called your comfort zone. Um, it's really difficult to get out of your comfort zone and in anything in life. Um, for me, the best thing that got me out of my comfort zone to the point where I could go and like meet new people was like a serious relationship that fell apart. That for me that is what got me out of my got me to the point where I could go out of my comfort zone and do stuff. Um, so if you find yourself stuck somewhere, you there's nothing, there's no way to get out of it. There's no trick you can do. You just have to do it. Now, I think what you're talking about, which is giant tangent off on the side, but it's cool. Um, I think what you're talking about is you're both really comfortable, kind of similar to the first question that we had, which we keep touching back with, about being stagnant. You know, you're in this comfortable place. You're in this stagnant place. Excuse me. How do you get out of there? You got to try new things. You got to go do things you're not used to. Maybe your guys' idea of a good time, what you're both really comfortable with, is hanging out at home, watching a couple movies, um, and playing some StarCraft. You do some 2v2s. Maybe you both play Terran, of course. Play some 2v2s, blah blah blah. Maybe for funsies, you guys watch some TV and then you like pretend to be Protoss players in Cannon Rush, right? Um, that's kind of a cute thing. But as time goes on, you find that it's kind of just the same over. You're like, oh yeah, babe, let's Cannon Rush some noobs tonight. Okay, and then you Cannon Rush some noobs, and you're like, yeah, that was nice, but you know, whatever. I could whatever. You need to do things that make you uncomfortable. You need to be like, hey, let's take a bachata class. And then you look it up and you're like, holy crap, bachata is like this really dirty Latin dance with loud music. And like people are basically having sex through their clothes while on the dance floor in a sea of people. I don't want to do that at all. Go do it. You'll be uncomfortable. You'll both go. You'll have a slightly awkward time there. But you'll dance together, so it'll be okay. And then when you get home, you're like, oh my god, that bachata class was fucking crazy. Can you believe that they would do that? And then you two can sit at home and judge other people. And now you have a new thing. Or maybe you decide to go camping and you go camping and it's a miserable fucking failure. Just go do it. It's okay to fail at things and it's okay to go do things that you don't like because that mixes things up at least. So I would say if you are stuck in a comfort zone and don't know what to do about it, just go do something, even if it sounds miserable and unappealing, because then you two can at least be miserable and unappealing together. Don't do something where one person's excited to do it and the other person is not excited. You should have the equal excitement level. You need to communicate about this sort of thing. You should have equal excitement levels going into this new thing. So if it's bachata, or if it's salsa, or if it's tango, American over Argentine, or if it's, maybe you guys want to try out World of Tanks. Oh my God. Um, Try something new that you or both have the same interest level in. That's what I would do if I was stuck at a place where neither of us are comfortable, or where we're both super comfortable. Let's bump up a new question. Let's see. I met a group of girls a while back. I hooked up with one of them and had a great time. Now I'm thinking about going for another one of the group. How long should I wait before moving on? Okay. This reminds me of the episode of Community, season 2, episode 14, the D&D episode, where he's taking notes while Annie explains things. Well, that's a rough spot, man. That is one of those. You hooked up with a girl, you want to date her friend. Now, you said hooked up. So if you just hooked up with her, then the implication here is that both of you went into this knowing it was a short-term agreement, that it was not a, hey, let's be romantic. If you hooked up with her just one night or 2 nights or 3 nights, if it was like a really short-term thing, I would say 2, 3, no, probably 4 or 5 or 6 months to be safe. Give it a good breath. You can hang out with them all. Just hang out with them as a group or this new person or whatever. You start working your way there, but don't go in for the date for a while. You met a group of girls, hook it up with one of them, you hang out with them as a group, you hang out with the one that you like a little bit more, and then you try and segue that into a relationship. That's what I would go for. I would take your time, take a couple of months to like build up the friendship level of with these people, and then try and go into that sort of thing. But of course, I mean that's kind of my approach to relationships in general is sort of friends first, then dating. Uh, because if you just take the approach like, well, I hooked up with this person, but that person looks like actual date material, I'm going to go for their friend, then you're kind of being a douchebag because, I mean, not really, but kind of. Because you have to think about it from their perspective. You know, this group of girls, they're friends, they're all hanging out together. One of them goes home with the guy, and then like a couple days later or a week later or whatever, that guy's like, hey, I want to date the other friend. From their point of view, you're just like jumping around, you're fucking with their feelings, they don't really know what your plans are. But if you hang out with them to the point where you're friends together, and then one of them's like, hey, he's really cool, I'm kind of developing a crush on him, and you're like, hey, I'm kind of developing a crush on you, and then they can be like, well, but you already slept with my friend, well, then you can kind of work it out from there. So this is definitely a situation where you take your time to become a friend before you go for something else. A lot of situations, some situations are more like, oh, cute barista, she makes my coffee every morning. You know what? I'm just going to ask her out. Totally legit. Absolutely go for it. But this is definitely one of the situations where you need to take your time and play up the friend card. I don't want to say card as if it's a pickup tactic or anything, but you definitely need to be friends first. That way they'll actually trust you. Question: why do you think? Oh, we're almost out of time here, guys. So this will be the last one for today. Why do you think sex is and has been such a taboo theme in society? Every time sex is mentioned, people tend to use euphemisms and not talk very openly. Take a look at American history, Puritans, Christianity, especially Catholicism. It was very like, no, sex is procreation only. It's definitely a Western concept that mostly stems, I believe. I should ask. I have a friend who is. I have two friends actually who are religious studies majors, and one of them has their master's in it now. I should double check with them on this, but I think sex as a taboo mostly comes from our history and heritage as a country and people of Catholicism and the Puritan influence on America. Yeah, that's definitely where it comes from because other places aren't necessarily quite like that. Other places are a little more open. So I think that's why it is the way it is. And that's our show, guys. That's our show. Love Bites episode 1 hour long, and I think we're done here. Thank you all for watching and showing up. I know WCS is going on, so you are all great for watching this instead of WCS. If you have questions, please send them to koibu@regalgoblins.com or PM me on Twitch, although sending to koibu@regalgoblins.com is a much, much better way. The PMs on Twitch I copy and paste, but sometimes I miss them or whatever. And I will do my best to answer them. We will have another show in 2 weeks. And if there's enough content, enough questions, and enough demand, then we'll bump it up to every week. Other than that, we should go watch some WCS, right?